Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. This is another paid request. This time for Kevin. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of video, review, re-review, a topic like this, commentary, reaction, a video game playthrough, or a let's try, or pretty much whatever the case, PayPal is usually the best bet, or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. So Kevin wanted me to compare the original Halloween, the original Friday 13th, and the original Nightmare on Elm Street. So I know the thumbnail is a bit misleading because there's Jason, but Jason with the hockey mask was not in the original Friday 13th, but I like the thumbnail. So I figured why not. Now, right off the bat, of those three films, my personal favorite is A Nightmare on Elm Street among those three because nostalgia is a part of it. When I was a kid, that was the first horror franchise I got into. Back in the day when you had two VCRs and you pop one tape in and the other one, you play one, you record on the other. We had Nightmare on Elm Street 1, 2, and 3 on one, 4, 5, 6 on the other. And it's definitely one of my favorite horror franchises. It's Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, is probably my favorite slasher film. And it's one of those things that I watch them over and over and over again. I still don't like part 5, but for the most part, the other ones I do, aside from the remake, which is the worst one. The remake is the absolutely worst one. I despise that movie. But anyway, not a fan of part 5 either, but that's still better than the remake. But the original one, let's say it's the one I grew up with the most compared with Halloween. I would probably say I watched Nightmare on Elm Street, then probably Friday 13th, and then Halloween? Maybe? I think so. Because I think I had seen Halloween 2 for the longest time. And then Friday 13th I saw on the Dust to Dawn Friday 13th Marathon with Joe Bob Briggs. And then later on I saw them on VHS tape and DVDs and so forth. Now, when I look at each one of them, to me, the least one is easily the first Friday the 13th. I know that's going to make people mad. I do like the Friday the 13th franchise. But I think most of the sequels are better than the first one. I do not hate the first one. Let me repeat. I do not hate the first Friday the 13th. I'm just saying, when you look in retrospect, it's okay, but it doesn't really stand out aside from the Tom Savini gore and the Harry Manfredini music. The rest of it feels like just an average slasher film where the characters are there. I like Adrienne Teen. She seems nice, but they don't really do a whole lot with her character. The killer, I like Betsy Palmer's performance, but it's a murder mystery that's cheap because you can't even... Like, usually with a murder mystery, you're supposed to guess. Be able to guess. Make educated guesses. Or red herrings. You can't have any of that because the culprit, the suspect, doesn't appear till the last 10 minutes of the movie. That always bothered the hell out of me because I thought it was so cheap. So cheap for... Oh, who's the killer? Who the hell is this person? Who the hell is she? Who that bitch? And then I know these films are not realistic. None of these are realistic. But then I'm supposed to buy sweet old Betsy Palmer ready to bake me some apple pie or pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving with Aunt B. Take care of Opie Taylor. But she's able to take a grown-ass guy and pull him up, push him up onto these hooks or whatever on the door, or these arrows on the door, and hooks, arrows on the door, and then throw a woman through a window. There was a sack of potatoes, and I'm supposed to buy this with this lady? It's hard for me to take seriously. I like her performance, but I'm sitting going, what the fuck? Like, what? You say, oh, the point of view shots are neat, but I mean, Halloween did that before, and I thought John Carpenter had a better handle on suspense and the camera work, thanks to people like Dean Cundey. And Sean S. Cunningham, I don't think he's that good of a director. I never thought he was that good of a director. When you look at horror film directors, Tobe Hooper, George Romero, John Carpenter, Wes Craven, Sean Cunningham really ain't worth the shit. I don't mind Deep Star 6. It's okay because I like those kind of movies. But I think Leviathan is better in almost every way. Not every way. Better in every way compared to Leviathan. Compared to Deep Star 6, Leviathan to me is better in every way. Every single way. Deep Star 6 is okay, but is clunky. What else has he directed? He directed that one, I forget what the hell it was. Rip Torn was the villain, where he kidnaps Captain Janeway for the Starship Voyager, takes her across his train yard that nobody notices, like this train platform. No one notices it. And that was the... There's the New Kids or something. That was watchable, more so I think for James Spader's performance as the villain. But Sean S. Cunningham isn't that great of a director. He never has been. I think this is okay, but not up to any of those other guys' levels I mentioned. So, again, I would say I like Friday the 13th Part 2 better. I'd probably put Part 3 above it, yeah. 4, yes. 5th, I don't know. That's another one I don't mind, but I don't love it. I definitely say I like 6 more, 7 more, Jason Goes to Hell more, Jason X more. I like the 2009 reboot more. I think it's a better directed movie. But anyway. Yeah, I think Sean S. Cunningham is an over... Well, I say he's overrated. Do people really rate him highly? I don't know. But, okay, so... Nightmare on Elm Street is my personal favorite. Halloween is great. And then Friday the 13th is number 3. But if I'm comparing their attributes... If we look at, say, kills, right? The kills. Gore-wise, I would give it to Friday the 13th because of Tom Savini's splatter effects, which that was his heyday, which then he would do The Prowler, and he would do Friday the 13th Part 4, The Final Chapter, and then, George Romero's Day of the Dead, before they did Dawn of the Dead, before he did Friday the 13th. And so you have, the arrow through the neck, and the axe in the head, and all that stuff. Nightmare on Elm Street, there's not a lot of kills in it, although the death with Tina is definitely a memorable one. And that's the thing, like, splatter-wise, Friday the 13th, but Nightmare on Elm Street has the creativity. And that's what I would go with Nightmare on Elm Street with kills, believe it or not. That's why I started out with the splatter. But it's just that the kills are much more memorable because of their creativity. A lady being pulled up onto the ceiling and screaming and blood spilling everywhere. Johnny Depp being pulled into the bed, and even his TV's pulled into the bed, and then this fire hose of blood comes up to the point that even the pillow is hitting the ceiling. Because in real life they turn the room, so it's really hitting the floor. And that gets into one of the primary reasons I like Nightmare on Elm Street the most is because of the creativity of the idea of this guy that kills in your dreams, and if he kills you in your dreams, you die for real. That's such an exceptionally intriguing premise that it just, as a kid, captured my attention. Because, yeah, you could run away from a killer, it'd be tough to do, but eventually you have to sleep. One way or another. You do try as much as you want, but eventually you're going to slip up. And then, because of that, then anything's game. And because of that, Freddy can do anything. He can extend his arms more. He could tear off his face. He could do all this crazy stuff. Make it so you can't go up the stairs. That they turn to like little bits of quicksand. And that is why that franchise always intrigued me the most, because what is he doing? What kind of creative dream scene, kill scene, world is going to be created next? Which is one of the many reasons why the remake sucked, is it didn't do any of that at all, which I thought was weird. Oh my god, there's a lot of books in this dream. Oh my god, there's a lot of books. What are you, Ghostbusters? No human would stab books like this. So I would say the premise, the creativity, was one of the biggest positives for me. That's why I give it the Number on Elm Street over Halloween Friday the 13th. Because it was a slasher film, but it was ambitious. It tried to be a little bit more than that. I thought it fairly succeeded. And made for me a much more interesting franchise. Although I do like a lot of the Friday the 13th and some of the Halloweens. If I go through, let's say, the musical score, I like the score to Number on Elm Street. You know, that by Charles Bernstein. Harry Manfredini's score is very solid in Friday the 13th. But I would go with John Carpenter, Halloween. I think Halloween beats it musical-wise. Because it's such a famous, simple, so effective in its simplicity. To really get that tension building for this moody, gloomy atmosphere. So I definitely think music-wise, Halloween would be top-notch and would win that overall. Camera work, I would give it to Halloween for Dean Cundy. Worked with John Carpenter with the widescreen format. And there's POV shots Friday the 13th, but for Halloween, felt like a grander scale using the widescreen. You're following, either Michael Myers like following people, and it just felt much more imposing. It felt much more bigger yet more focused. I know that doesn't make sense, but a foreboding sense of doom. So I think Halloween, because of stuff like that, worked with the music and the camera work, made it more of a suspenseful movie. So you ask me which I think is more the suspenseful of the three, I would say Halloween. So that's camera work, the mood atmosphere, suspense, the music. Definitely give it to Halloween. So then it depends, what do you want? Do you want that, or do you want more of the effects, creativity? That's a big part of my enjoyment in movies, and Nightmare on Elm Street wins on that for me. The lead, I don't mind Adrienne King. I would put her at the bottom of the three. I like Heather Langenkamp. I do quite like Nancy. And this is going to be... Man, this is going to be controversial. Most would say Jamie Lee Curtis, and I thought she did a good job in Halloween, but I would give it to Heather Langenkamp as Nancy. I just find her a much more interesting character. Maybe because of what she goes through with her dad, played by John Saxon, her mom being drunk and having to deal with her literally having to be trapped in her own house, her trying to warn her boyfriend, all the details going into that. And of the three, she definitely seemed the one to be the most productive. You know, not just waiting for things to happen. For Jamie Lee Curtis, she doesn't know anything's going on until the finale. But with Heather Langenkamp, her character of Nancy, she knows much earlier. And she's able to figure things out, like how to get herself out of the dream, and that's a way to escape Freddy, making a plan to try to get him, but then Johnny Depp slept too long. And kicked his chair when she was pissed. I know people don't like her acting. I highly disagree. I thought Heather Langenkamp did a good job. I do. I liked her as an actress. I thought she did a good job in that movie as well as Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I know the guys at Dead Pit, like, they don't like her performance. I highly disagree. I think it's a really good one in both movies. And yeah, she was relatable in the first one, and then productive, like building the traps, getting the traps set up, her grabbing Freddy, getting him into the real world. She did smarter things. Jamie Lee Curtis, her character is told to not do the smartest things, like when she stabs Michael Myers in the eye, or she stabs him but then drops the knife and has to go away. I'm like, don't drop the knife. But Helen Langenkamp's Nancy doesn't really do that much of stupid things, at least that I noticed, that I remember. So I would probably say script-wise and character-wise, I think Nancy was a bit of a smarter, bit more, again, I say productive as in did more against the villain, did more to keep herself alive, less of a damsel, more strong woman, which people nowadays said never existed in the 80s, which apparently they never watched films like Nightmare on Elm Street. Which I thought I remember one of his inspirations was watching a screening of Swamp Thing, which he had directed. At one point, Adrienne Barbeau had tripped and fell, and like his daughter was there, and she turns to Dad, girls don't fall like that all the time. Like something like that. And again, Jamie Lee Curtis does a good job in Halloween. It's just that when it happens, she just doesn't have much to do other than run, scream, hide in the closet. She does stab with the wire hanger and the knife, but then she drops the knife. I'm like, don't do that, you stupid. So because of the lead and the character, I think it's a better written character. I put Nightmare on Elm Street above it. Jamie Lee Curtis, her acting, in a weird way, it felt like she had more screen time compared to Adrienne Teen in Friday the 13th. Does Adrienne Teen's the star, but I don't know, it sounds stupid. It doesn't feel like she has as much screen time as you would think. Maybe because like the opening, well, the very opening is two people dying years ago. Then you have the opening with the hitchhiker, which is trying to mislead you, where you think she's the lead, but then she's not. She's killed. Then you see a bit of Adrienne Teen, but then you see much more of the other campers doing their things, the camp counselors. I felt like Jamie Lee Curtis had a little bit more screen time in Halloween. So yeah, I would say Heather Langenkamp, Jamie Lee Curtis, and then Adrienne Teen. So yeah, we're talking points. Halloween, you get the music, suspense, camera work. Nightmare on Elm Street, you get the creativity of the kills, the premise, to be the lead character, the way she's written. And again, I like Heather Langenkamp. I liked her performance. I really liked her. I don't know, if you talk about straight gore, then Friday the 13th will win that. Authority figures, adult actors. I don't mind Crazy Ralph. The other folks, like the guy Christie, they don't really have a whole lot to do in Friday the 13th. They're okay. They're serviceable. I do like John Saxon as Nancy's dad in Nightmare on Elm Street. Ronnie Blakely, I didn't think she was that bad as some people think she was. I didn't think she was that awful. I thought she played Drunt very well. But I'd give it to Donald Pleasence. It's Donald Pleasence's Halloween. He's my favorite part of that movie as Dr. Loomis. The way he says the lines, the dialogue, they don't come off as hammy, they don't come off as cheesy. You believe that Donald Pleasance's character believes in this stuff. Purely evil. The blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. Like, you buy that he means it. And he's great. So that point definitely goes to Halloween. So you think, well, wait a minute, if it's, suspense, Donald Pleasance, let's say the camera work, how do you like Nightmare on Elm Street more? Like I said, not just for nostalgia's a part of it, but like I said, I like the lead girl more, like her way her character's written more, like the premise, the creativity of the kills more, but also the clincher is the killer. Now, I mentioned Friday the 13th and Betsy Palmer. While I do like her as an actress, again, I'm sitting there going, I don't buy her doing all this physically. I just don't. I'm sure it's happened in the real world, but it's just my brain will wrap around it, and again, it's a murder mystery that you can't solve, so it's not fair, it's a cheat. Michael Myers, great mask, as the shape, works well in that environment for what he's supposed to do. But I gotta give the killer to Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger for being one of the few, especially in that day and age, to have a personality. And the way, Robert Englund's voice, but then they alter the voice a bit in post to make it sound a bit deeper, a bit scarier, a bit more intimidating. The memorable lines, even in the first movie. This is God. It just brings, as dumb as it sounds, an iconic, like right off the bat, you knew this was something special. With the way he looked and the way he acted and his voice and the unique weapon, because everybody has a knife. I mean, hell, there were knives in Friday the 13th. There were knives. How many people have a glove of knives? Such a unique weapon, such a unique personality, and then also a unique look. The fedora, the green and red sweater, the swagger. He's just having fun. He's having a ball. He's an actor. His movements, his mannerisms, how playful, sadistic he is. You'll come to daddy. I think he says that to Nancy, right? Flicking his tongue. Maybe, or am I thinking of another Nightmare on Elm Street film? Can't remember. But no running in the hallways. Just such an inventive creation that really stood the test of time. It really made him stand out. And I think that's easily why, when you look at the box office for, especially the first 4 movies, they would get bigger and bigger because you notice his character and his personality, so there's a little bit more to him. What kind of lines is he going to say? How is he going to act? How is he going to react to certain things? And then, again, what kind of special effects, what kind of creativity, what kind of special effects trick are we going to see in this movie that we haven't seen before? And okay, we've seen people, the kills, we've seen typical times, but what dreams, they're going to do? What? It becomes an event movie. And that's why culminating was Elm Street 4 making about $50 million. So then the audience were feeling a similar way I was feeling. And while Friday the 13th films were doing well enough for their budgets, I think you see that Nightmare on Elm Street were outgrossing them more so. Especially Elm Street 4. 3 and 4. and having, of the three, the lead, the villain, the creativity, the premise, that combination really drew to me as a kid and stands out as unique compared to the other slasher films. Halloween is a good slasher film, but it feels familiar. But it's well directed by John Carpenter and photographed by Dean Cundey, and the music and all that. But Nightmare on Elm Street just stood very much on his own 2 feet and just stood out from the pack because it felt different, it felt unique, it felt ambitious, and I appreciate that. And like I said, if you're asking me, I like all three films, but if you're asking me which I'm going to pop in right now, if I did that, it would be a Nightmare on Elm Street. So there you go. But with that said, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.